Hi, I'm Meg Fenn. I'm a clinician at Recovery Centers of America, and I'm here today to present to you a 12-step tutorial. We're going to do it in 3 parts. The first part is going to be steps 1, 2, and 3. Second part will be 4 through 9, and then the third part will be steps 10, 11, and 12. Today I'm going to talk about the first 3 steps of the program. These are really the first 3 proposals of the program. It's how we get going, it's how we get started, and really you have to just do them yourself. I mean, someone can sit with you and kind of help you go over them, but you have to answer these 3 questions yourself, all right? Step 1 is identification of the problem. Now, usually we'll ask somebody, what's your problem? They'll say alcohol or drugs. I drink too much. I use too many drugs. But here's the thing. That's not your problem. Alcohol, drugs, it's not your problem. It's become your solution. And if that's happened to you, you have to understand that, accept it, and hey, here I am in step 1. Alcohol has become my solution. Drugs have become my solution, right? So with that, guess what happens? I am trying to medicate an internal condition. See, step 1 is about understanding the internal condition more than anything. What is this internal condition? I'm restless, irritable, discontent long before I ever drank. I have this kind of anxiety. Sometimes I have depression. My mind races. I feel like I'm different than everybody else. Sometimes I'm in a room of people and I feel lonely. I present differently on the outside than I feel on the inside. I compare my insides with other people's outsides and I lose that bet every time. This is all going on inside. I got a hole in me I can't fill. I have low self-esteem. I have a big ego. This is the manifestation of our disease. And when we feel like this all the time, we got to fix it. And the way we try to fix it is with alcohol or drugs. And we start putting that stuff in, and maybe it works the first time. Maybe you get a little bit of relief. But over time, what happens is you're going to develop a phenomenon of craving. You're going to have to do it all the time. I have one, I got to keep going. You're also going to get a mental obsession. And that's when I'm not drinking or using, I'm thinking about it all the time. So step 1 is coming to believe that you have this thing. And we're going to identify what the problem is. The problem's not the alcohol, it's not the drugs, it's the internal condition you're treating. And that's the essence of step 1. Do I have this thing? Step 2, we come to believe that there's a power greater than us that can help us with the insanity. So there's something else we have to talk about in step 2. All right, the step itself actually says, came to believe a power greater than us can restore us to sanity. All right, so we have to talk about the sanity versus insanity thing. People get offended about this. I know I did. I'm not insane. I know the difference between reality and not. Here's the thing that we're talking about though. The insanity of our disease, when we're talking about alcoholism and addiction, when Bill Wilson wrote this book and he was talking about the insanity of our disease, he's talking about insanity as the inability to recognize the truth from the false. Okay? Now think about that. I'm unable to recognize true from false when I'm in my disease. And that is why we need a power greater than us to help us in those times. You have to really understand that this disease manifests in a way. We started out talking about step 1. I'm restless, I'm irritable, I'm discontent, I'm not okay in my own skin, and I'm taking something to make that go away, all right? It stops working, all right? When I start to have obsessions about using and drinking, guess what happens? I start to get insane. Now, it doesn't mean I need to be locked up. It doesn't mean I'm broken off from reality. What it means is I can't tell the difference between the truth and a lie. Why is that? Because this disease talks to me in my own voice. It's me telling me these things, right? So here I am out in the world. Maybe I got out of a rehab. I've put a few days together. I'm going to meetings. I'm collecting my chips. And I'm going to tell you something, we really don't start to feel better until we've worked steps 4 through 9. So here we are early on, right? And we're out in the world and we're getting our little chips and that internal condition hasn't been fixed yet, All right, we still have that hole inside us, the emptiness, the ache. We're going to our meetings, and the obsession is going to come through. And it comes through in my own voice. And it says to me, hey, Meg, it's been a long day. You're stressed out. You can have one drink. This time, it'll be different. You can have one. No one's going to know. Look, you stayed clean for 30 days. One drink's not going to hurt you. And I believe that lie. And when I believe that lie, that's the most insane I'm ever going to be in my disease, because I'm picking up sober. All right? So when we talk about step 2, we need to be willing to believe that there's some kind of power out there greater than us, and that when we are in the manifestation of obsession, we get insane. All right? What is the insanity of the disease? The inability to recognize true from false, right? Because when I am out there and the obsession comes through and it's talking to me in my own voice and it's telling me all the lies I want to hear, I'm going to act on it, right? So if you've ever picked up sober, you understand this concept of insanity. Obsessions will come, okay? But when we act on them, now we're starting to be insane, okay? So that's what Bill Wilson's talking about in that. So in step 2, came to believe power greater than us can restore us to sanity. All right, the inability to recognize true from false. All right, so next we're going to go on to step 3, right? And in this book, it's very clear. Bill sets it up 1, 2, 3. There's no stopping in between. There's no real discussion. 1, I've identified my problem. 2, we just identified our solution, okay? In 2, power greater than me, I understand the insanity. Now in 3, we're going to make a decision, all right? We're going to make a decision to do 2 things, okay? 1, we have to try to stop playing God in our lives. Now that's a tough one, all right? And we all do it. Bill Wilson describes in the big book, when he's trying to explain this point, he says the actor on the stage who wants to run the lights and the scenery, basically somebody who's in an acting position who wants to do everyone else's job. And that's how Bill Wilson described playing God. I describe it for myself as basically what goes on in my own mind, probably every day. All right, so what happens again is I'm out in the world, and if my internal condition is not all right, and I'm not feeling so good about myself, right? I notice that my thinking turns to things like this. If my boss would only do this, if my neighbor would just do this, if the car in front of me would just do that, if the line at Starbucks would just be smaller, right? And I always end those little if sentences with, then I'd be okay, right? If everyone and everything would just do what I need them to do, go to their own place, be where they're supposed to be, I'll be okay. And guess what? I'm not okay. That's the whole point of all this. I'm not okay. But I have this thinking that if I control everybody and everything every minute of the day, maybe I'll be all right, okay? And it doesn't work. So then I go back to drinking. Now, we got to try to stop doing that. That's the playing God thing. I'm going to try to stop doing that. The other decision we make in step 3 is to go do the work. I'm going to make a decision to go work the steps, right? These first 3 proposals, they can happen right here and now in a very short amount of time, and the only one who can do them is you. Step 1, identify the problem. Do I have this thing? Am I walking around with an internal condition that I treat by taking alcohol or drugs? That hole inside me, the restless, irritable discontent, the little secret we don't tell anybody. I'm really not okay. My self-esteem is not good, but I got a big ego. If you have this thing, identify it, all right? In step 2, we come to believe that there's some kind of power out there that's going to help us, right? Because we get insane. We can't recognize true from false. A mental obsession comes through and it'll tell me anything in my own voice to get me to pick up. And if you've ever picked up sober, you know what I'm talking about, right? How did this happen? I talked myself into it. That's how it happened. And in 3, we make a decision. You're going to try to stop playing God in your life every day. and make a decision to go do the work. The work is steps 4 through 9. We get better in steps 4 through 9. We feel better in steps 4 through 9. And when we feel better, we don't drink and use. But we got to get there. Now, any decision we make, if not followed by action, is just a decision, right? So you ever on a Saturday say, that's it, I've made up my mind, I've made a decision, I'm cleaning the house today. If I don't get off the couch and clean, all I did was make a decision. So the decision has to be followed by action, all right? So after we've sat with, usually it's just ourselves, but it can be with another person, and we review these first 3 proposals. Okay, step 1, admitted we're powerless over alcohol and drugs, which to me says I'm identifying the problem. I got this internal thing, man, and I need something to pour in there to feel better. All right? Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than me can restore me to sanity. Step 3, made a decision, turned my will and my life over to my higher power. After we make those first 3, we go through those first 3 proposals and we make the decision, we have a very clear-cut instruction in our book next. And here it is. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action. That's our next instruction. And that's what we need to do.